Hi friends, it gives me an immense pleasure on launching the course titled SAP Success Factors, OData and SFAPI API How to Work with Them. This is the most comprehensive course built upon the SAP Success Factors with the focus exclusively on the technical perspective. A must-have course, I would say, for the integration consultants, technical leaders, and developers doing complex integrations with success factors. This is the only course of its kind, and even though the most comprehensive course comprising of 40 plus hours of training material. Most of the times, functional consultants as well feel the need to have either understood the underlying details, be it what objects are available for meeting a particular business requirement, fields available from the object, how can I make a query to the object and see the data for myself so that I can be clear in my requirements to the technical team. In the process, reducing the development time and being crisp and meticulous in providing the details. The course has been constructed with the layman person in the perspective and all the needed details, right from how to install, configure the open source tools available to connect to success factors, demystification of the data center URL, how can I understand what is the data center URL I need to make the OData API call to, knowing only the application URL or the company ID URL. Constructing an OData URI, not only OData but also quite many hidden capabilities from SFAPI are also being uncovered. What are OData URI components? What all methods can be executed over the objects? What's the syntax, format of the request body to create an object in SuccessFactors? What are effective dated objects, both basic and advanced? What all capabilities are available to query these objects to meet the various needs of the integration? These and much more are covered in the details possible. Now going through the course content itself. So it starts with the introduction. It has the section 2 as SFAPI, success factors, SFAPI, URI, and digital. Here and there are a lot of things which have been discussed on how to gather the data center URL, knowing only the application URL. Then other things which are basically SFAPI enabled or not, checking in the provisioning and all. So this starts over the SFAPI part, wherein the SOAP UI, the various tools which are needed to do the calling to the success factors for data centers. Those are also being shown up how to install and basically different technical configuration issues that might be faced up because of the recent developments wherein TLS version 1.0 disablement is also one of the things which is dealt out in considering the configuration of the various tools to make the calls to the success factors data center. So it does not rely upon the licensed or the expensive products being available in the landscape to carry out these integrations and also to do all the lab practices that are being shown up in these lab sessions. How to build up your own integration, it deals with right starting from the scratch with the perspective that okay, we need to know each and everything comprising of that integration, what is the objective and how what is the journey that we can reach to that particular objective. So from that perspective it is being covered. All the minute nitty-gritty details have already been covered in the course. This also deals with about okay, creating an API user ID to make SFAPI calls. So these are all about the SFAPI thing, like there are different options of creating the user IDs which are available via provisioning, via SuccessFactors application, via import of the employee data, or setting the password for the API user also being discussed. About various options are being discussed that okay, how the password can be set. So in order to in each of these particular sections or the top subtopics within sections are also given up with the known descriptions as well, so that it is easier to understand like okay, how here we will see what all options we have to reset the password of the API usernames created above. Then we will have option 1.1 which discusses about via the add new employee page. Then we have option 1.2 which discusses about setting the password via the import employee data page or the CSV files. And then it also talks about various other ways on the how the password could be set. So these are some of the things in the details. The perspective is basically the details it is being went through. Then the various SFAPI methods and parameters. Then it comes to and in the SFAPI methods and parameters, there are multiple things which are being discussed about the understanding of the SFAPI digital as well. So it gives us this street smartness that, okay, we do not rely upon the expensive or luxurious tools in order to do the integrations, and it starts from the scratch, from the ground level up. So it also discusses about, okay, setting the API user login exceptions. It also talks about the various calls to the success factors via the SFAPI. It could be the data metadata inspection or the session management calls, data query, category calls, query and query more, or the data manipulation call, absurd calls. Also, the asynchronous call operations are being discussed, wherein whether various ad hoc APIs could be called. Then it also discusses about extensively about OData APIs and OData. So what are the tools to make the OData calls? So here in this section, all the various tools which are available to make the OData calls have been discussed, and all of these are available to do right from your laptop. So these are not very expensive and luxurious tools or which require licenses. At times it might be required if it is required for the company purposes, but for the personal use, most of them are free tools. Even from the browser, how you can make the calls, those have been discussed. Then the OData basics in relation to the success factors. OData, like what is the OData structure, the components of an OData URI, how we can create an OData URI right from the scratch. As you can see, it also discusses about the service metadata documents, metadata documents, and the entity metadata documents, and what is the comparison between the various service metadata documents and the entity metadata documents, what all additional features we get out of one document as in comparison to the other, or how it helps in understanding the structure of the OData object, and what all objects are available. So all of these things are available, right, discussed from the OData basics itself. Then it is discussed about, okay, how to create an OData URI introduction, and how to gather the service root URI of OData calls, the OData URI and its components. Then the resource path, the various components, query options are being discussed, and then various more finer level details, like, okay, whether each of the parameters and certain examples on each of those parameters are discussed extensively in all of these subsections in these sections, like, okay, dollar order by, what are all the restraints, configurations, or what are all the different parameters on which we can execute the queries or data queries. So dollar order by, dollar top skip. So these are all the various parameters, dollar filter. So also along with it, so not only the data query options have been discussed, but also the examples of those on how they work in tandem, and the various queries are also being put out in a very practical manner. Each of these sessions are the practical sessions in itself, and herein you will be knowing that, okay, how to execute it hands-on. So it does not rely on giving a theoretical impart of the knowledge, but dealing with it right in front of you, right from your laptop on hands. So there are various date time and date time offset data type fields. So what are all the data types, time data types? So all of these things in details have been discussed. Then OData API user permissions. So what are the permissions for the API user to make an OData API call? And then there are effective dated entities. A lot of discussion has been done on the effective dated entities as well, because these are the primary entities on which a lot of very sensitive objects are based upon, which are required in most of the integrations. So the knowledge of how to basically execute queries on effective dated objects, what are all the effective dated objects in the success factors applications, so it deals with them, that, okay, concept of from data to date and as of date for advanced effective dated entities. So even what are the advanced effective dated entities, those have been discussed. In the different modes the data can be entered into success factors application. So what is the impact of making an entry into that particular mode on that particular object, how the data shows up after that entry has been done in that particular mode. So all of these things have been shown up as well as compared. Then it also deals with about the effective dated entities behavior with the navigation. So various subsessions also there within those particular sections. And effective dated entities, how can they be queried? So what are all the ways in which we can query the effective dated entities, including the from, to, as of date, start date, end date, last modified, on date, date time, so last modified date time with DZ. So all of these things have been discussed in perfect details and minute details basically. And then the filer algorithm where it required on how to behavior can be deduced, that, okay, how the effective dated and the advanced effective dated entities behave with the other parameters. So that algorithm is also shown up in a simple flowchart manner. So then also we discussed about the behavior with $expand. So there are certain behavior that we need to consider of the effective rated entities with $expand. So those have been considered in details. Then it shows up that okay, what are the ODATA APIs push operations. Then it talks also about the insert operation, upsert operation, various operations that we have update and delete. In the update also we talk about the various other parts. So for an example, on the insert part, we see that okay, this is the opening session wherein we seek out that okay, these are all the queries that comes to our mind. That okay, we will try to whether the intended operation supported for the entity, what are the required fields for the entity, what URI the call needs to be made to do the operation, what should be the HTTP operation, also known as verb, what should be the body of the request, are all fields of the object supported for the operation, what values should be supplied to the fields to be populated, whether we want to operate upon one object or multiple objects, how many multiple objects can be accommodated in one request, how to write the body of the request, what response shall we be getting. So each of these details are basically discussed in minute of the nitty-gritty possible. We want to impart you not only the fish basically, but how to do the fishing is also being imparted in this particular course. So after that, we discussed about the insert operations, request body are all field supported for the operation. So each of these questions are discussed in the very minute details. What are the allowable fields, option IDs, external code, pick list values. So then other OData API operations on links, which is the navigation property. So how we can operate the on the links as well. So that is also being provided. What are the push operations, update operations, like okay, we need to perform a replace or a merge operation. So how those are being done. So this is also being discussed over here. So what are all the upsert operations, how we can perform them, further discussions upon upsert processing parameters, purge type. So different type of processing parameters, no override. So understanding of a particular object is also being driven over here. What is file local parameter? What are all the different parameters which are available? It also talks about the various other operations like delete and all. So it talks about various other details. So friends, as you can see, that ideology has been to start right from the scratch. Every slide contains practical knowledge and it is conveyed in an easy and ready to implement manner as if it is being done right in front of you with hands. So friends, I would welcome all of you to this particular course, and may this course be a factor of success in your career. I wish all of you all the luck, and the details and the link to this course is also given in the description of this particular video. Thank you.